There we go. All right, we should be okay. We're trying to get back into it. Let's make sure I have all my stuff sorted. All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. It's been a while. Haven't been able to do a live since early July because life has been lifing. As you can expect, the ministry's been ministering. We had a not a hectic end to the school year. Yeah, I'm holding the mic because I'm running out of desk space. Not a crazy end to the school year, but nevertheless, kicking off now to see how we. One second. Um, just trying to make sure because I'm sure somebody gonna let me know on YouTube if there's sound or not. Um, we shall see. But in any event, welcome back to MECYS Matters. The hot take of today: investment. It's a word that gets tossed around a lot, especially recently. People keep talking about how we need to attract investment, how we need to invest in, athletes, education, etc., which of course is, expected. But I think the bigger challenge is that most people expect that all of that investment has to come from government, but it can't. I've talked a lot about how everything in education, culture, youth, and sport is a community effort. And I think nowhere is that more obvious than in sports. And we'll touch on that a bit later when we get to the sports update. But additionally, I just want to say, as we look at what's been happening around the world, wildfires here, places we've never seen wildfires happen, water challenges, um, this talk of I saw someone say that if we had positioned ourselves a bit better, we could have been attracting an AI data center, um, for Simatin to be built on Simatin. And I want to be 100% clear with y'all. If y'all would like to see your minister turn into a a mercenary, let's let that happen. I don't think persons quite understand the environmental and ecological risk that AI itself poses, and what a data center needs in terms of water to cool itself. We have water challenges right now in several neighborhoods. You saw the warning come out from GB about being responsible users of water as well. That's something that is, exacerbated by the presence of an AI data center. You can scroll any TikTok, search it on Google, search it wherever you want, on persons who are making content basically centered around how their towns in the US are kind of dying because of the AI data centers that are basically utilizing all of their water reserves. So I think my cautionary word of the day or hot take is actually that not all that glitters is gold, and that not every investment is a positive one. We can see the benefit or the consequences of many investments that were made over the years from a development perspective right here on Simatin. Moving on to the word of the day. Let me take a sip of the hot drink because I haven't had coffee today. The word of the day is kludge, Kludge. A kludge is a haphazard or makeshift solution to a problem, and especially to a computer or programming problem. Now, I'm laughing because I know when Marvin hears the word of the day, he's going to be like, this entire place is running on a kludge or several kludges. Um, if you use it in a sentence, you could say, Andy knocked out a hasty kludge to circumvent the glitch until a more robust solution could be developed. Where did it come from? As long as the origins of kludge, also spelled kluge, Kluge, are uncertain, any attempt to pin them down will itself be a bit of a kludge. That is a makeshift solution or explanation. The writer Jackson Granholm, once thought to have coined the word, offered his own origin story when he wrote in his 1962 article, How to Design a Kludge, that it came from the German word klug, meaning smart or witty. This connection is unlikely on both a phonetic and semantic grounds. However, and in any event, the word already existed a decade before Granholm in an article recounting military folklore acquired from ex-soldiers. Agnes Nolan Underwood related a shaggy dog story about a sailor named Murgatroyd whose civilian occupation is kludge maker. The meaning of kludge is withheld till the end of the tale, when the object made by Murgatroyd turns out to be the damnedest looking little thing you ever saw, wires and springs sticking out in every direction. Murgatroyd then accidentally drops the object. The kludge slipped out and went overboard down into the ocean and went kludge. This suggests a possible onomatopoeic origin for kludge or kludge, and we note that the kludge spelling better reflects its pronunciation. The word rhymes with huge, not fudge. But again, nothing in this life is certain but death and taxes, and not even taxes. And these days, also computer malfunctions. So it's an interesting little word to kind of say we made a little bit of a solution, but it's not the final solution. And sometimes you have this happen with words, right? What's up to the followers on TikTok? Sometimes you have this happen where a word will end up in a dictionary, even though it was something entirely made up. Someone who's famous for this throughout history is Shakespeare. A lot of the weird little words that you have to describe certain things come from Shakespeare simply tossing letters in whatever version of a blender they had back then and putting it into his writing. And because he was, a writer for the ages and a poet for the ages, it essentially became part of the vocabulary. So that's how you sometimes get words that sound like they were made up because they all are actually. Maybe one day on the live, I'll do like words we can thank Shakespeare for that you wouldn't think would have been a word or you thought was just something made up. So moving on to the gaming roundup, I've been playing Live Below. I first talked about the Live Below demo on the live when they had it out. Live Below is a city builder, but it's underwater. So you research different growth aspects and you essentially manage your reef. You do that by attracting wildlife, monitoring pH balance, temperature, algae growth. You can have overcrowding of wildlife. I've recently graduated to where I now have turtles visiting my reef, living on my reef. What I do like to see with this game are the very careful balancing acts of nature represented in the city builder. There's ocean hazards, there's mankind's hazards coming into play. Temperature increases, for example. You'll have ruined zones where you have to literally restore the zone and bring back life, clear off dead coral, all types of stuff. So I do like that aspect of it. You'll get a random notification that your pH balance is going out of whack. You have to plant or put certain types of coral that will either increase or decrease. Of course, because it's a game, the mechanics are in the sense of you can deactivate certain corals, certain plants, so that their effects are not executed on your reef. But in real life, that may look like a natural predator eating something that is generating too much algae, for example. If you don't have a vibrant reef, algae blooms are possible, and then those choke your reef. So I like to see that represented in the game. I think it's a great teacher of what types of coral exist, the different types of habitats. For example, when you put down sea anemones, of course, clownfish love a sea anemone, but you might have known that if you'd ever watched Finding Nemo. So I think those are the things I like to see in a game that's a city builder, but it also teaches you a bit about what you can learn. So that's the game that I'm busy with this month. I finished 007 First Light. Amazing game. Again, if you haven't gotten it, check it out. I played it on PC, which was phenomenal. It was literally like playing through a movie. They also have like these little vignettes on YouTube with the developer where you can see costume design for Bond. If you're a fan of the James Bond movies, you know that Bond is a fashionista in his own right, always very well put together, always very dapper. They actually reflected that in the game, which was pretty cool. But yeah, definitely a game I might revisit. There's also a tactical simulator portion of it that you unlock once you pass a certain point in the game. So maybe I'll go back and play some of that. Moving on then to our main topics. It's July 28th. Has your 12 to 14-year-old started working on their short story as yet for the Dame Ruby Butte National Short Story Contest? You better get them on it. So story submissions open up on August 1st. That's this Saturday. The theme, as you know, is Beats, Bites, and Bacchanal. Stories can be between 750 and 3,000 words. We're taking submissions from August 1st to August 21st, 2026. Winners are going to be announced in recognition of International Literacy Day on September 8th. The theme challenges writers to imagine Carnival in the year 2050, exploring how AI and emerging technologies may shape the future of Siman's most celebrated cultural tradition. You're encouraged to creatively examine how our cultural heritage and innovation can exist, ensuring that our spirit, our identity, and the energy of Carnival endures in a rapidly evolving world. So again, if you're between 12 and 14 years old, or if your student is between 12 and 14, they can submit their story between 750 and 3,000 words. If you are turning 12 in the month of September, you can still enter. Um, that's the situation we had last year, so we decided to incorporate it into the rules where if you're turning 12 in the month of September this year, you can still enter the short story contest and see if, like last year's winner, you can win before you're even 12 and then turn 12 in a couple days after winning. So that's the DMU Reviewed National Short Story Contest, Beats, Bites, and Bacchanal. So I'm looking forward to all the submissions. And of course, want to thank our private partners for the prizes that they put up every year for this initiative, which is RBC Bank, Bullchans, Antec, and Class Electronics. So there's some great prizes that you can win if you do win, whether it's first, second, or third place. Each level has a fantastic prize available for you. Bit of an update on the trust fund. The library contract, signed, sealed, delivered. So you should see mobilization start hopefully soon at the St. Martin Library. We are, of course, on a very tight deadline with these construction projects, but the contractors of all of them, because sports gyms and sports facilities, school gyms and sports facilities as well, is an ongoing project. You'll see that there's been site possession taken over the summer by Sundial. You'll see the same at MPC, Rao Village, etc., and other community courts throughout the island. And so I'll hopefully in the coming weeks have even more of an update, but you can see as well if you drive through certain areas, Mid-Region, for example, with Sister Marie Laurence, the construction is moving along very swiftly. Every day you can see people looking through the fence to kind of see where's it going, how's the progress. It's going really well, so I'm very happy to see that happening. And moving on to education for a bit, I want to talk a bit. It was reported, of course, in the People's Tribune, but I just wanted to highlight it here on the live that for 2026 upcoming semester, we granted a total of 75 study financing scholarships to new students. 12 were denied. However, that means an approval rate of approximately 86%. The Netherlands, of course, accounted for the largest number of study financing decisions. We had 34 applications, of which 33 were granted. The US followed with 25 applications, of which 19 were granted. For local attendance at the USM, we had 18 applications, 15 granted. We have 7 students going to Canada, and 1 student going to Barbados. So the Netherlands remains our leading destination among applicants that receive study financing support, followed by the next usual leading destination, the United States. Let me see. This, of course, is because studying in the Netherlands is still more cost effective for the student than studying in the US. In particular, in the US, tuition goes up at a rate of about 5% every year. So you do see that as a continuous challenge. I want to just break down some of the stats. So business was the most selected career among approved students, with 13 choosing to study that. This was followed by biology, biological science, including medicine. We had 8 students as well going into finance and financial control. Information that followed with 7 students. Some other fields that we had certain students apply for: accounting, psychology, radiologic technology, and some other non-priority fields. Healthcare management, we have 3 students going into that, which is, of course, very critical, especially if we look at the progress on the St. Martin General Hospital. Social work as well accounted for 2 students, and electrical engineering. We had some students going into AI development, which was interesting for me to see. Aviation management, which is something I'm really glad to see happening, because if you look at the airport and PJA's trajectory, you want to build that capacity locally to ensure that there's opportunities for your local students to come back and work in management positions at the airport. We also had marine engineering, mechanical engineering, hospitality management, although there is a decline in the interest in hospitality studies, but I'm not surprised by this. The reality is that even though we are a very tourism based economy, hospitality management is a very heavy handed study for an island where we are only now seeing locals enter into management. When I worked in our hospitality sector, very often you would see persons brought in to be the food and beverage manager, the concession manager. um, you know so yeah, I can understand why I would be a bit hesitant as well to study hospitality management if I know I'm never going to be on a track to become general manager. Not to say that that is something you can expect right out the gate. um, Usually in hospitality you could start off front desk, you start off in a restaurant and work your way up to general manager. But of course, if that is a trajectory you study, then maybe you want to end up in sales, maybe a group sales manager, sales account manager, and that's a faster trajectory to the top than starting in at front desk. So a bit of a pro and a con for that being your study of choice. But nevertheless, I wish all the students much success. I managed to pass by when the students going to the Netherlands were having their workshop sessions here at the government building, and just speak and engage with them a bit on their upcoming journey. They should be leaving this weekend, I believe, and then heading to the Netherlands, of course, to continue their studies. And those going to the States will probably be leaving a little later on, since I think those semesters usually start early September. Further on in education, our artificial intelligence in education policy is moving along. We're now moving into phase one of stakeholder consultations. So that would include educators, schools, after school programs, and so forth. So you should be hearing from the project team soon to get your input and insight into how AI can be responsibly utilized in education. As well, the tendering for public education maintenance should be going out soon. We would have liked it to be out earlier. However, we had some critical losses internally, familial wise, within the ministry. So we wanted to give those persons their space to be able to grieve properly. And now we can get back to the business of getting the tendering done. And then finally, one of my more favorite things that I had to attend in this last couple of weeks is the signing of the MOU for the satellite library at the House for Detention in Point Blanche. I was able to talk a bit about a program that I involved myself with when I was in Miami, which included reading to inmates within the Miami-Dade correctional system. And I told the story about how, yeah, I was happy to see like 5-6 prisoners in the room with us while we were signing the MOU. I've heard talks about a book club being started, and I want to give them their due shout outs for improving themselves and improving their literacy while incarcerated. I talked a bit about Shaka Senghor, and they also, of course, met Mr. Senghor when he was here on the island with Art Saves Lives, talking about his book and his own time in prison, and how reading and writing while incarcerated helped him to basically chart a path out. And that is also the experience that we had as readers in Miami-Dade, where there were not that many people coming, but then one inmate kind of corralled the rest. And I said, what? How did you get him to come? And he was like, well, at first they didn't want to, because they were like, oh, what are these nerds going to talk to me about? And I told them maybe if we'd been a little more nerd, we wouldn't have ended up where we are. And he said, maybe a little bit of nerd can help us on the way out. So again, very happy to collaborate with my colleague, Minister Taklin from the Ministry of Justice, the Simatna Library as well, and of course, Mr. Kati up at the House for Detention. I think it's an amazing project. When I did a tour with Parliament of the prison, the library is one of the spots that I lingered in the most, just to see what kind of books they had. I even offered to donate books because they did have some quite outdated titles. Having a satellite library there means that our inmates are going to have access to more updated titles, as well as audiobooks. So if they're not able to maybe focus on words on a page, they can maybe focus on words that they're hearing read to them. So, of course, the Ministry of Justice knows that in any way ECYS can assist, we will, and the prison knows this as well as the library. So very happy to have been part of that, and looking forward to the book club being started. And who knows, maybe I will suggest some books for the book club. Moving on to sports. Aquatics, athletes are currently in the Dominican Republic representing at the CAC Games. You could tune in live on YouTube to stay up to date with the meets. I posted the link on my WhatsApp. I posted as well on Facebook. I also want to congratulate a bit belatedly Aruba for winning it all at the Latin America Caribbean baseball tournament. I was able to attend the opening festivities, um, but scheduling got in the way. I see a question about the satellite library. How does this work practically? Yeah, so they will receive. So they're not going to receive devices. If you ever see an audiobook set up in a library, usually there are desks with listening devices, and you have to stay in the library, of course. We also talked about this at the MOU signing, where one of the inmates lamented the fact that they don't have a lot of library time. However, the intention is to see how this can be facilitated now that there's going to be access to audiobooks and other titles at the library. So you will be able to, kind of see if we can increase their library time. I think that to me would be the best way forward. Back to sports a bit. Thank you for that question as well. So back to sports a bit. Um, the HVAC project for LB Scott Sports Auditorium. We are moving forward with that. We had a bit of a mix-up in terms of the contractor that was meant to do the works. However, full steam ahead. Now we have to collaborate and coordinate with the NRPB because, of course, there are works under the sports facilities and school gyms repair project that impact the sports auditorium as well. So that's something that we're going to be focusing on in the next couple weeks, and I'm hoping to bring that further update to you. And I now moving on a bit to yikes culture. So we had the Afro Carib Festival. Let me push this further. Yeah, so we had the Afro Carib Festival, and I bought a painting. I think I'd mentioned that previously on the live, and I wanted to show you guys the painting. I'm done with my updates, so let's see if I can. I want to show this here. So I bought this painting. I bought this painting of an amazing artist. The name I cannot remember, but the Instagram I sure can. But essentially, this painting is called "For Those the for the Brothers the Atlantic Kept," essentially, and it is a representation of the Atlantic slave trade. Most notably, a more joyous and ethereal representation of those who perished on the during the transatlantic slave trade. So on the ships, essentially, those who threw themselves overboard because they, did not want a life of chains. Those who were intentionally thrown overboard. So this is a representation of them in a more ethereal setting, at peace in the environment. I thought that it caught my eye immediately when I walked into the museum, which had these pieces available for sale. Thank you to Axum for facilitating these art sales as well during that festival and the festival in itself. I'm gonna try to see where I can put it in the office. We kind of ran out of wall space because I have a lot of student art, as most may know if you've been in here, on the walls. But we'll figure it out, and then I'll let you guys know when that actually happens. So that is it for the live. For the updates, I do want to say it is hurricane season. You could feel it getting hotter. I know I can. Keep an eye on the Atlantic. I always check it every day, but we are getting up to the peak of hurricane season. Be sure to always have your go bag prepped, have your watertight storage for your documents prepped, have at least 2 weeks of bottled water supply at all times, non-perishables, etc. You see the heat warnings continuing to come out as well from the Met Office. Be sure to stay hydrated, put on sunscreen no matter the amount of melanin in your skin, because you can still get burnt, yes. Don't spend time in the sun if you don't have to. And keep monitoring, of course, especially as we get closer to, unfortunately, September, my birthday month. You'll usually see activity kind of kick up, if at all, as we get closer to September. So don't want anybody caught off guard. Enjoy, again, the rest of the summer vacation to those who are off break from school. Want to also remind everyone again, the submissions for the National Short Story Contest open up this Saturday. We will be posting the email address that you will submit your short stories to this weekend, well, this Friday. 750 to 3,000 words. If you're 12 to 14 years old, of course, you can submit your story under the theme Beats, Bites, and Bacchanal. So very much looking forward to reading those again. I want to thank you guys for coming back. It was a long hiatus. Hopefully, we can not be on such a long hiatus. I will be in the Netherlands next week, but I will do my best to do a live. If not the Tuesday, maybe probably the Tuesday. That would be the easiest day. Yeah. Um, so yes, so I'll see you guys next week, and until then,